Hey there, Fletch from All Things Overlanding here, and today on the podcast / vlog, I'm going to be talking about organization and how important it is for overlanding. We're going to cover a few points in this episode, so stay tuned till the end to kind of hear all of it. Also, if you're new here and you're watching on YouTube, make sure to hit that subscribe button, hit the bell to be notified when new videos drop, because I do a podcast like this every week, and then usually 1 to 2 other videos as far as gear reviews or do-it-yourself modifications, that kind of thing. So tons and tons of content here for you, and I'd love to have you as a subscriber. But let's get into why organization is so important for overlanding and camping, and why you need to be organized.
Let you go. Ooh, let's just pull you closer. Ooh, I can't understand where it came from, but you got it, my got it. It began in the land of the sandstorm. I fought it, though I wanted everything to do with what you give to me.
All right, guys, so as I mentioned in the intro today, I'm talking about the importance of organization for overlanding / camping. So if you are not familiar with overlanding or camping, overlanding is basically sort of vehicle-dependent travel. It's where you are going to go on typically a longer trip, and you're going to be pretty reliant on your vehicle. So it's very important that you have everything that you need for the trip packed, and that you know where everything is. So again, being organized, being attentive to detail is extremely important to have a successful overlanding trip. So let's break this episode down into basically 3 sections. Section 1 is going to be talking about, what happens if you're not organized, right? What are the downsides? What are the cons of being unorganized? And I can speak to this because I've been unorganized for years and years, and it's something I'm struggling with and constantly improving on. So I'm going to tell you the things that I've screwed up from my experience in hopes that it will help you, have better trips in the future and be more organized. The second part of this episode is going to be talking about how being prepared is basically the crux of overlanding. If you think about it, overlanding essentially is being prepared, right? Being prepared for anything, being prepared for the unknown, being ready to go in a moment's notice. So being prepared is an essential piece of that. And if you're not organized, you're not going to be prepared. So we're going to talk a little bit more about that. And then third, I'm going to kind of finish up with some real world tips, and I'm going to cover all different budget options, right? So you don't have to spend $1 million. You don't have to go out and buy a deck system or buy any sort of fancy organization stuff. I'm going to give you some tips and stuff for just how to be organized with things you may already have laying around, or some inexpensive budget minded sort of pieces of gear to help you get organized. So let's dive into part 1, talking about the ways you can totally screw up organization and the downsides of that and what that is going to mean for your trip. All right, so as I've kind of mentioned, I have screwed up a lot. I have gone on trips and forgotten a chair. I went on a trip one time and I forgot my ladder for my rooftop tent, which made it extremely difficult to get in and out of the rooftop tent. So, being unorganized is definitely a huge downer for almost any overlanding trip. You're almost always going to have a bad time if you are unorganized when you go on your trip. So again, you need to think about your entire layout to prevent this from happening, to keep yourself from having a bad trip. You need to do something like making a checklist or something like that. You need to think about your entire vehicle. Where do you have storage space? Where do you have room where you can put things? In my case, I always like to find places that are going to be dedicated storage, where stuff is going to be in a specific spot every time, and I know where it is, because then I don't have to worry about packing it. That's always my problem, is when I come home from a trip and I take things out of the vehicle, I have trouble getting things back where they went. Especially on longer trips, when you're kind of taking stuff in and out all the time, you kind of find that maybe this one thing that was on top of another thing is not getting used as much as the other thing. So then you take it out, you move it, you throw it in your back seat, whatever. Maybe you have one of those toilet tents that's kind of a pain in the butt to get folded back down, and you give up on trying to get it folded down in the woods, and you throw it in the back seat, or you throw it in the bed of the truck under some gear, and it's not put away where it goes. So again, being unorganized like that is definitely a way to get you out on the trails where you're going to realize, oh no, I didn't ever put my toilet tent back in there. Now I can't go to the bathroom in private. Or like I mentioned, I took my ladder out because it was all muddy. I cleaned it up and I leaned it on the wall in my garage to dry out. But then I forgot to put it back in my rooftop tent, and now I can't get up and down into my rooftop tent, which is going to ruin that trip. So again, it is super important to be organized. The downsides of not being organized are that you're going to forget stuff, and it's not just the forgetting stuff, right? It's not just an inconvenience. The things that you forget for an overlanding trip can make a huge difference. You could forget your stove, for example. That has happened to me before, where I rearranged my drawers and I took everything out of them and I was putting stuff back in, and in the middle of it I kind of got distracted, lost track, had a stack of stuff still sitting there ready to go. And the next day someone's like, hey, I'm going out camping tonight. I'm like, yes, let's go. I'll jump in with you. And I drove all the way out there, got there, and was ready to cook my meal and realized that I had left my stove at home. Now, luckily, you can cook over a fire, right? There are other options. If you have some sort of like a pan or something that you can cook in, you could still make it work, but it's super inconvenient. And again, it makes your trip way less fun. All right, so the second sort of part of this episode is one of the main things about overlanding is that you are going to be relying on your vehicle, that you are going to be prepared for almost any situation. You're going to have recovery gear, which is super important if you were to get stuck or someone in your group was to get stuck. You're going to have food. You're going to have backup food just in case. If you bring meat or something in a refrigerator and your refrigerator shuts off or loses power, or the cord comes, loose at the back and all your meat goes bad, you need to have backups, especially if you're super remote and out in the middle of nowhere. So bringing something like, an MRE or a freeze-dried meal or something like that as a backup or a convenience thing is just part of being an overlander. Also, same with first aid and things like that. First aid maybe doesn't seem like that big of a deal if you've never, hurt yourself out in the wilderness before, but that first time that it happens, if you don't have first aid, you're going to be really wishing that you'd brought that, right? So again, to be a good overlander, you need to be prepared for stuff. And one of the easiest ways to do that is by being organized and making places for everything that you need on your trip so that you know that you have it every time you go out. All right, so let's kind of finish this up with the bulk of this episode. I really wanted to talk about what that means. What kind of stuff can you use to get organized? And again, I wanted to focus a lot on not buying things, not just going out and getting a $800, $1,000, $1,200 deck system, not just going out and buying a ton of storage stuff because, you listen to this episode or watch this episode on YouTube and you're like, yeah, I need to get organized. I'm going to go to Amazon right now. I'm going to buy $500 worth of storage bins, right? There are a ton of options and a ton of budget ranges. Again, historically, I've been super cheap with my stuff. Like those front runner boxes are extremely nice, but they're pretty pricey for what they are. It's basically a plastic box, 4 sides, a bottom and a top. So, there are other options out there, and they don't even fold down. They do stack and things, so there are some nice features to the more expensive type of storage boxes. Pelican cases are great, but they're extremely pricey, right? Again, I'm not going to advocate for that stuff up front. Go out a bunch, take the stuff that you've got laying around. If you've got Tupperware bins and things like that, you can use that stuff. If you've got Plano crates, I've had a number of Plano crates laying around. That was kind of my first purchases for overlanding were Plano crates. I'll put a link to all this stuff that I'm talking about in the description down below. But the big sort of black Plano crates with a clippable lid that you can clamp on, you could stack them up, you could throw them in the back of your truck. They're waterproof. You don't have to worry about stuff getting into them, animals or dust or rain. And they're very inexpensive. I think they're like $40, $30, $40 a piece. So I had like 3 of those. I've had them for years. I use them still to store gear, old gear that I don't use. It's all on shelves in my basement. So again, being organized and having stuff like that is going to be super important, but take what you've got first, go out, figure out your setup, figure out what you want to do. You may discover that, again, you're really into overlanding, right? Maybe you don't have kids. Maybe you're a single guy or a girl and you just want to go out and kind of take trips by yourself. So maybe you're willing to fold your back seat flat and build a drawer system over it. Or maybe you're willing to take a seat out and build like a half rear seat delete in like a truck, if you have a pickup truck with 4 doors or an extended cab. So, it's all going to depend a lot on what you learn as you go out, but you don't have to spend $1 million. So let me give you some specific tips here now as far as what to use. And I've got some stuff laying around here in my office that I'm going to kind of show you just to give you ideas. But again, don't feel like you have to go buy this exact stuff. You can use it for inspiration and then you could go get whatever you want. You could get cheaper stuff. You could get, less name brand stuff. When it comes to packing and things like packing cubes and things like that, I don't know that the name brand stuff is as important as it may be with something like a rooftop tent or a refrigerator or, that sort of thing. So you could get a little bit cheaper on this stuff than maybe you could on other things. So one of the things that I really like is, and kind of the way that I started was, I used to go camping all the time. And so I had a nice backpack, and I've recently upgraded to this Outlast Supply Company. It's a completely waterproof 40-liter adventure bag. So it's got a roll top on it here. You can fold this down. Again, I'll put a link in the description to this thing. They've got a coupon code that they gave me that will save you some money and makes this just over $100, which is a really good deal for a completely waterproof, really nice backpack. But just if you have a backpack already laying around and you want to get going in overlanding, you can get quite a bit of stuff just in a backpack, right? The backpack is kind of the last thing that I usually pack when I go on a trip. I throw my clothes in there. I'll throw, my drone if I'm bringing that with me. I'll kind of throw my last minute stuff in here. But if you had a couple backpacks laying around, you could probably get by with just loading up a couple backpacks to save you multiple trips in and out to the car or throwing stuff everywhere and kind of losing track of stuff. You could outfit your bags with all of your camping gear that you need for a weekend, right? Or for an overnight trip. You don't necessarily need to have a full drawer system to go camping, right? So something like a backpack is a good place to start, and you probably have one laying around in your house already that you could use. So now another way to get organized, and you could use this inside of your backpack, or you could use it inside of a Plano crate. I have these really nice Peak Design packing cubes. So these things are basically just zippered little sub bags, if you will, that you can use to organize things specifically. So let's say that you had clean clothes and you wanted to put them in one of these larger pouches. You could zip those all in there, and you could have one that's clean and you could have another one that's dirty. And as you take them out and wear them, then you put them in the other bag so that you can keep your dirty and clean clothes separated and organized while you're out on a trip. You could put first aid stuff in a bag like this. If you have a first aid bag, that may be its own storage bag that you put inside of a backpack with all of your other stuff, your clothes and that sort of thing. A lot of these Peak Design ones are super, super nice. They're really extremely well made. They're expandable. So as you can see, there's this sort of middle section here. You can actually expand and compress them depending on what you want to store in it. So again, if you had a bunch of, puffy bedding or clothes or things like that, you can expand these out to make more room for stuff. But so they're extremely nice, extremely well made, but there are also no-name brand ones online, and I bought some of those too, and they've been okay. I mean, your zippers may lock up. You may have more problems with them than you would with a more pricey name brand piece of gear like that. You're not going to have any support probably if it's something from China, but if it's a packing cube and it costs $30 for 6 of them or something, then it's probably not the end of the world if you bought something cheaper. And I'll put a link to that one down there too, because I bought some other packing cubes that I use as well. So again, just base it on your budget, base it on the amount of time that you want to spend out in the wild, base it on how serious you are about overlanding. If you're brand new to it, maybe start with the budget stuff, see how far it gets you, and then later down the road, you could be like, you know what, I love packing cubes, I use them all the time, but these ones are falling apart. I'm going to spend a little bit more and get the Peak Design stuff, for example, as my upgrade when that stuff fails. Another example of a really fantastic system for use in overlanding is the Rux bins. So this is a clear 70-liter Rux bin. These are a little bit on the pricey side. They're a couple $100. But the cool thing about them is that they're rigid, and then you can collapse them and they will fold flat. So you can actually get this thing really small. So especially if you're taking stuff with you, let's say you're going on a trip where you plan to spend a few days in one spot. If you're going to get to that spot and you're going to take all your gear out of your vehicle and you're going to set it up on a table or in your tent or whatever. Let's say this had all my bedding in it, right? Let's say that this had my sleeping bag, my pillow, that sort of stuff. If I didn't have room in a rooftop tent, or if I was a ground tent camper, I could put all that stuff in here. When I get to camp, I could unload it all. I could put it in my tent, leave it as my base camp, collapse this thing down and slide it behind my seat in the back, for instance, or slide it under my front seat if I wanted to. And it takes up way less room because of the fact that it folds flat. So while it's a pricey piece of gear, I have used one of these things for the last 3 or 4 years, and they hold up extremely well. They're extremely well made. They're serviceable. So there's a ton of different ways that you could use these things. And again, if your plan is to sort of be an SUV camper and you have a family, let's say, and you don't have room for a ton of gear to be in there 24/7, then something like these bins would be a great way to kind of have it in one place where you're organized. You know exactly what's in that bin. Maybe you have set places for everything. Maybe you use the packing cubes inside the bin to keep stuff separated into its different functions. And then you get ready for a camping trip and you've got 4 bins in your closet or in your basement or in your garage or something, and you grab those and you put them in the back of your SUV or you put them in the back of your truck, and you know you've got everything that you need for that trip. So again, those could be a little bit pricey, but if that's your literal whole camping system and you remove it and put it into the vehicle every time you take a trip, then it's worth the money to have waterproof, weatherproof storage where you know exactly where all your stuff is and you can easily move it in and out of your vehicle. So now here is another sort of more budget option, and I use these bins all the time too. There are these Vevor hard-sided fold flat bins. So basically these things are really cool, and I'll put a card up here in the top right corner to the video that I did on these because I'm not going to go super fully into this, but it does have a lid. It does have holes in it, so it's not waterproof, it's not weatherproof. So there are some pros and cons to each of these options, right? And again, it's going to depend on your setup. If you're using it to move it from your basement to your vehicle every day, and your vehicle's an SUV and everything's going to be inside, these would be great, and they're really inexpensive. Again, I'll put a link in the description below, but basically these sides come down and then you fold out the ends here. And then just like that, super easy, you've got a rigid box that also folds flat down to about 1 inch thick. So now I've got this huge cavernous box that I can pack a ton of stuff in. Same idea, same instance as the rucks, where you could, load this up in your SUV, take all your stuff from your house in 2 or 3 of these bins, put it in your SUV, get to camp, unload everything into your tent, onto your table, whatever your setup is, right? And then you can basically just fold it flat and throw this in the back seat, or throw it under your table, that sort of thing. So then you've got a ton less space taken up by your containers. So there are all kinds of really cool options like this, all kinds of really cool bins and stuff. And again, I'm gonna put links to as many different ones as I can down below, because I've got a handful of them. And I use all of them for different things in different instances all the time. But having these options, and again, not starting with stuff that you have, starting with a Tupperware container, starting with a backpack that you have, or a duffel bag. Maybe you have 2 or 3 duffel bags sitting around your house. You could start with that and spend $0. And I would always recommend starting as cheap as possible when you first start out, because maybe you end up not liking overlanding or camping, right? That's a possibility. Maybe you end up thinking, wow, I love this setup. I'm gonna keep doing the duffel bags and I'm just gonna load and unload all my stuff every time. Maybe you're like me, and after a couple of years, you're like, you know what? I'm tired of moving things in and out of my vehicle. I want everything to have its own dedicated place in the vehicle. So you build a drawer system. Again, you could spend a bunch of money on a pre-made one like a deck or something like that, or you could build your own. I'll put a card up here to the video that I did on my own. It cost me maybe $250 worth of wood. I bolted it into the bed of my truck, and I've got a ton of storage space with dedicated spots for all my gear, so that I know that I have my tools, that I have my recovery gear, that I have my propane fire pit, that I have all my cooking stuff, right? Everything has a place and is organized in there, and it makes my trips so much better. So again, hopefully those were some good, helpful tips for how to sort of organize, or at least give you some inspiration so that you can kind of come up with some ideas of your own. But start with the stuff that you've got if you're brand new. If you're not, and you've sort of tried a bunch of different things, again, hopefully seeing some of this stuff is helpful. And again, I'll put links in the description down below. So I hope that was helpful for you guys. If it was, click that like button if you're on YouTube. If you're on the podcast, save it as a favorite. Leave a 5-star review if you could. That's always super helpful, and helps other people know that this is a good, helpful podcast. So I really appreciate it if you do that. In the description down below will be links to all my other social channels. So wherever you want to come hang out, I'd love to have you. Come check me out on Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, TikTok, wherever you want to come hang out, I'm there. There's also a link to my website where I've got funny overlanding camping themed patches and stickers, things like don't burn your wiener and it's a hot dog, or I hate people so I camp, that kind of stuff. If you're into that, they all have free shipping. Check those out through that link down below. Then there is also a join button if you're watching this on YouTube below this video that you can click. That is basically just a passive way to support the channel. It's about $7 a month, but you get early access to all the videos. So I usually drop my videos 1 to 2 weeks before they actually go live. So if you're in there, you get all that stuff early, including the podcast episodes. So just a passive way to support the channel, help me keep making content. No pressure whatsoever. Then there's the link to the Patreon page, which is kind of a more active way to support the channel. We've got a 24/7 Discord. We go on a couple trips every year, and we do a once-a-month Zoom call, and that's a ton of fun. But everybody in that group is fantastic, and everyone, I hope, is learning a lot in there. And then last but not least, there's the Newbie Overlanders Facebook group. Totally free to join. Tons of awesome members in there. No bullying like in the bigger groups. So if you're looking for a place to learn and ask questions, that may be a good place for you. But again, thanks so much for watching. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you next time.